Greetings! I am Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is still Thursday, as we said before. Today is going to be part 1 of 5th edition races, where I'm going to go into more detail about them, teaching you a little bit about each of the races, and seeing if you want to play them. So today I'm going to go over the common races. Now, in 5th edition, there are common races and uncommon races. Uncommon races are played with GM's discretion and approval, but common races you can just choose from willy-nilly, unless your GM has certain strange rules, which he could always have. You never know. Your GM might say something to you about it. It'd be odd, but it could happen. You could be in a world where you don't have any elves. So don't jump to any conclusions. Talk to your GM about whatever you want to play before you finish doing all the details on your character. So anyway, let's get into it. So let's start with the first one, Dwarfs. Now dwarfs, they're of course stout and tough and gruff, and they burrow under the earth. They're miners and crafters. They live in clans and kingdoms. They are fiercely loyal to their friends, and they remember grudges forever against their enemies. They're a very interesting race to play, and they're very fun to play too. They have that sort of loyalty that they're very good teammates. You have to remember that they have that, and that they'll swear that vengeance against their enemies for all time. So that's the attitudes of dwarfs. Now dwarfs gain a bonus of +2 constitution, just for being a dwarf. Now they mature like a human. They're adult around 50. They tend to be lawful, but you don't necessarily need to. They're medium-sized. They're not, and they're kind of stout, but they're still a medium-sized creature. They have a speed of 25, meaning they can move 5 squares. They have dark vision, meaning they can see out to 60 feet in pitch black. It'll see sort of black and white, but they can see there. They have stone cutting abilities, meaning they get bonuses when dealing with stone, and they can sort of understand it better. They sort of perceive things in stone that a normal person couldn't. They have proficiency in dwarven weapons. There's a list of weapons that are sort of under the dwarf purview. Traditionally axes and hammers, that sort of weapons, but if you're interested in which ones they are proficient with, check the list. You get those as a bonus no matter what class you are. They have proficiency in a tool of their choice because they are craftsmen. Now they also get, there's going to be some details which I'm going to explain to you because these are 5th edition details. They have advantage, I've mentioned advantage before, against poison. And if they're taking poison damage, they have resistance against it. Poison comes in the form of damage. Resistance means I take half damage from any source. So, if I have resistance against something, I'm taking 4 damage, I take 2 instead. If I'm making a save against it initially, I have advantage against it. I roll twice and take the better. Now dwarfs have 2 sub-races, hill dwarfs and mountain dwarfs. Hill dwarfs get +1 wisdom and get a bonus hit point per hit dice, per level. So at first level you get 1, and every other level after that you get a bonus hit dice. They're very hardy. Mountain dwarfs get +2 strength, so they get a little more, but they don't get the hit points, and they're proficient in light and medium armor automatically. Meaning no matter what class you are, you can use light and medium armor. You could be a wizard and be in medium armor, like, haha, wizard in armor. So next up, after the dwarfs, elves. They are like timeless, they're regal, they are sort of got that like sort of like high air to them almost. They are traditionally very forest home associated with like amazing nature-based civilizations which sort of blend in nature and magic. They mature a lot like a human, but they're not considered an adult to around 100. Elves are medium. They have 30 feet of movement, 6 squares. They have dark vision. They're hard to charm with charming type magic, which makes you like, which it would be a magic that makes someone like you. They have advantage against that, and no kind of magical sleep can put them to not. It can affect them. Now they go into a tranced sleep, meaning it's like a sort of hibernation almost for only half the time a human would need. So they only need to like trance for 4 hours, and they're easier to wake up out of it. They don't go into a deep sleep. And now there are 3 sub-races to elf. High elf, wood elf, and dark elves, or drow as they're called. Now, we'll start with high elves. Going back, I almost forgot, elves get +2 dex. That's the ability score they get. I forgot to mention that. Apologies. But high elves also get +1 intelligence. They get a bonus language. They get a couple of different weapons than traditional just base elf, so their weapon proficiencies change a little bit. They get a free wizard's cantrip. Cantrip is a spell you can use at will. They're small, little, tiny spells, which it's the sort of basis of a wizard's spell repertoire, because you can always use that. Other spells you'll run out of, but you always have cantrips. They get one that they just know for free, and they treat it like a wizard's cantrip, meaning they use their intelligence to attack or DC, but it's something they know, which is a pretty good ability. Now, wood elves get +1 wisdom instead, and they have a 35 speed instead of 30, so they can move 7 squares. Now again, their proficiencies are a little different, and they also are good at hiding in the wilderness. They have this sort of like camouflaging ability. Now, dark elves, so drow. A little side note, traditionally drow are evil, but not all of them. There are exceptions in some of the Dungeons & Dragons stories, especially from the Forgotten Realms sort of setting. You can find characters that are drow. The most famous is Dritz. Look him up if you want to. Please don't ask me to spell his name. I cannot remember off the top of my head. I'll put it there. But Dritz, he's a dark elf, but he's come to the surface and he's trying to do good because he doesn't want to live up to the darkness that plagues his race. Anyway, so drow. Drow get a +1 to charisma. They have dark vision out to 120 feet. They have superior dark vision. But they have penalties when they're out in bright light. They are sensitive to the sunlight. And again, they also have their own sort of weapon proficiencies. So those are elves. Let's move on to halflings. Halflings. They're small, they're cheerful, they get along with everybody, just a general hat. They're party people, they love a good party, they love to eat and drink, they love to be merchants and traders, they're great farmers, and they love to do these sort of things. They're the most probably peaceful race out of all of them, but if you mess with them, they're willing to take up arms and defend themselves. They're not, pushovers, though. So, halfling's an adult at 20. They get 2 dexterity. They are, of course, small size, which changes the amount of damage they do with weapons and gives them other sort of bonuses. They have a speed of 25. Halflings are lucky. It's a great ability. It makes halflings very fun to play. When on an abilities check, or a save, or an attack, if you roll a 1, you are allowed to re-roll it. That's it. That's all it does. 1s are normally automatic failures for certain ones of those checks, or if your GM's not using that rule, which he's up to him if he really wants to, you're probably going to fail on a 1 because it's so small on a d20 roll. But this way, you can re-roll that 1. Re-roll that d20. It's a great ability. Now, halflings are brave, meaning they have advantage against fear effects. And they're nimble, which means they can sort of move through an enemy's square. That means it's like, if I'm fighting an enemy, I'm sort of nimble and I can dodge under them for free, which is really cool. So there's 2 sub-races, Lightfoot and Stout. Lightfoot get +1 to charisma, and they're stealthy, meaning they're very good at hiding and keeping out of sight. Stout get +1 to constitution, and like dwarfs, they have advantage against poison when they're making a saving throw, and resistance against poison damage. So the last race, in the common races, humans. Humans are really simple. Humans are divided in amongst regions. In the main book, they talk about the regions from Forgotten Realms. They're assuming you're probably going to use the Forgotten Realms setting. Again, I've mentioned before, there are other settings in Dungeons & Dragons. Some of them are still published in 5th edition. Others are more traditional from older editions. Your GM could use any of them, and just the basic settings don't have to be converted. Only certain statistics do. So humans get +1, all their ability scores. That's what they get. They're also medium, have a speed of 30, that's 6 squares. And they do have a variation, which you can ask your GM if you want to take. The variation is +1 to 2 different ability scores, and instead of the other ability score bonuses, you get a bonus proficiency to a skill and a bonus feat. Feats are an optional rule that I will discuss later on. In 5th edition, feats are optional. Talked about them in Pathfinder, not optional there. Here, they are. Again, I'll go over them later. Alright. Anyway, that's enough for races for now. Those are all the common ones. Thank you again. Please like, comment. We'd always like more members, so please subscribe, join the Empire, become a citizen. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.